Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. And Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101.
Hello, this is Dan Berkowitz from CID Entertainment and CID Presents, and I am here on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101, again and again and again and again. Welcome to the show, y'all.
That's the spirit, Dan. Your new session, Promoter 101 podcast continues. Episode 160 coming at you. Later on this podcast, we're going to sit down with United Talent Agency's David Galea talking about a big global view of the live entertainment business. Looking forward to that interview, Dan.
3 questions with Live Nation's Marty Bechtold.
That's right, the man from Indy. Promoter 101, here we go.
Hi, this is Heath Miller.
Becca Leifer.
Ed Mike Cohn.
Derek Dimmenstein. Jason Kupperman.
Jason Miller.
John Schur.
Marcia Flessick.
Mike Fruitman. Ricardo Bacco.
Peter Schwartz.
Nick Storch.
I'm on Promoter 101.
People are talking about it. The word is out. Cat's out of the bag. Rumors are true. The podcast is coming to an end, Luke. Have you heard about this?
I have heard about this, Dan. Rumors are true. We're going to be doing our final interview, our final live podcast recording this October here in Music City, USA, Nashville, Tennessee. We are going to be at the IEBA conference. That's the International Entertainment Buyers Association, and it's in its 49th year, Dan. It's taking place October 27th to the 29th at the JW Marriott Hotel here in Nashville. And we're looking to wrap this up with so many of our good friends in attendance. It's going to be a very special end of this podcast, and we're already working to ensure that it will be one of our best episodes yet.
I originally thought it was the EBITDA conference because, big financial music business to string, but I later learned that that's not what it is. It's IEBA.
It is indeed IEBA.
You do know EBITDA, though, right?
I do know EBITDA.
You speak the financial sound slang words.
EBITDA, right?
EBITDA.
I don't know what the O would be. Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and I don't know what the O part is.
Hey, if there's something you want to share with us, just simply email us, steiny@promoter101.net, or if you want, I'll just give you Luke's cell phone.
Sure, here it is. Ready? Write it down. If you don't have my cell phone, you can always find me rambling on Twitter. I'm at WLukePierce. Dan's the Jew. The show's Promoter 101. Check us out there. Join the conversation.
We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Tumblr. We're on Twitter. We're on LinkedIn. We're on the World Wide Web at Promoter101.com. You know the game. Find us there.
Come check us out.
Daniel Glick. I work for Evenco on Promoter 101.
Let's celebrate some birthdays for the week of June 18th to the 24th, 2019, in the year of our Lord. More your Lord than mine, but that's a whole nother topic.
Tuesday the 18th, we're wishing a happy birthday to CA's Brian Hill, Feta Bookings, Ava Maria, Alexi Ryu, Andrew Simon, Jason Parent, Nikki Wheeler, and Paradigm's Larry Webman.
Wednesday, 6/19, Jason Miller. Now, the mystery is for you to figure out if it's Jason Miller, Asia, or Jason Miller, New York. Both Live Nation fellers. I don't remember which one it was, to be honest with you. But happy birthday to both you sons of bitches.
On Thursday the 20th, wishing a happy birthday to AEG's Ethan Levinson, Boston Calling's Trevor Solomon, Sam Kinkin, and the PR whiz herself, Ariel Hyatt.
The 21st, that's Friday, Lucas Keller, Mark Norman, and Stephanie Myers.
Saturday the 22nd, happy birthday goes out to Stephen Page and Margie Alvin.
Sunday, 6/23, Ralph Marchetta.
On Monday the 24th, happy birthday to Eric Blocky, Mark David, Denver's Paramount, Chris Goddard, and Jason Comfort.
Wonderful wishes to all of you on your birthdays from the gang at Promoter 101.
Hi, it's Marcy Allen, president of MAC Presents, and honored to be on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101 flashbacks.
Episode 75.
Lucy Dickens.
Lightning has certainly struck many times on your roster.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I did someone say to me, I think I was just lucky in there at a time, and someone went, you can't be lucky that many times. And I was like, well, maybe. But I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of good music around at that certain time, and I feel like I probably got quite a lot of them. And they were kind of interlinked in a lot of ways as well. So, there's someone knew someone who knew someone. The Adele signing was because she came with Jack Peñati, who was one of my artists, to a Hot Chip show. That's how I met her. So there was kind of...
Your dad brought that up last year, that the creative part of the Adele signing was that your brother had nothing to do with you getting the act, that it was separate conversations with the artist and neither one of you knew that the other one was working on that.
He had said to her, okay, we need to get you an agent. She said, I know exactly who I want my agent to be. This is this girl I've met called Lucy. And Jonathan went, fuck off, that's my sister. But when we'd met at separate ways. I met her through Jack Peñati through a Hot Chip gig, and Jonathan was managing Jack, but no one had actually said to Adele, that's Jonathan's sister. No one had said anything. I was the Hot Chip's agent, and she and I totally clicked. And it was because of the way her personality was that I went home to listen to that CD. She was totally someone I wanted to hang out with. She was just so funny. And she actually, the best thing ever, and I was telling this story the other day because it's funny how things come back, was that she actually said, I said, you're a singer, aren't you? Because Jack had said to me, she's got the most amazing voice. She went, yeah. She went, do you want one of my CDs? I went, yeah. And she looked to get one. She went, oh, shit. She goes, I've given them all away. She walked over to this bloke. She tapped him. She went, excuse me. She went, can I have that CD back, please, that I gave you because I need to give it to her? And that's what she did. She took the CD off this person and gave it back to me. And no word of a lie. I've still got the CD. No word of a lie. That's exactly what she did. And it was only because I went home.
That CD's going to have to go to the Hall of Fame at some point.
Yeah. And it was like pure just recordings, like rough recordings. And it was insane. Like I was mopping my floor in my living room or hoovering or something. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the most amazing voice I've ever heard.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rose, co-head of the music department at CAA, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Dan, we're kicking it up. Starting out episode 160, we're going to sit down the man from Bankers Life Arena from Live Nation in Indianapolis. Longtime listener, Marty Bechtold's here with 3 questions.
As a young man journeys into the wild, there are many questions he asks himself, and sometimes there's just 3. Today on 3 questions from Live Nation Arenas, representing Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Marty, welcome to 3 questions. How you doing?
Fine, Dan. How are you doing, man?
We're having a good time. So, with all of the arena history you have in your head, the knowledge you have in the industry, and the respect you have for so many agents that have fucked you over for so long as a venue manager, what's on your mind today? You got some questions for us?
Sure do, Dan. Both you and Luke on your podcast, and as you know, I'm a loyal listener, have stressed the importance of the hang, not only to grow your business, but to develop relationships. And so my 3 questions start with number 1, what do you guys consider the best industry bar hang, either at a conference or another industry event such as an award show?
Luke, I know you love the award shows. I'm guessing Vegas is your best. What do you got?
Yeah, best industry bar hang or award show. For me, over the years, I've become very fond of the bar at Polestar in February, wherever that might be. I've really come to enjoy the bar at the Limelight Hotel in December when the Aspen Live Music Conference comes around. It's just a very jovial hang, frequently with a sing-along from Craig Newman, Bob Lefsetz sitting around the fire. I don't mean to drop those names all at once, but it's rare that you can kind of see everybody kind of just coming together to enjoy each other's company and talk a little bit about shop, but maybe more so about music and why we're all there. So I really enjoyed that. In the past couple of years, I've been really lucky to go to a lot of great award shows, and you wouldn't believe the frenzy of award show floors at commercial breaks and jumping up to say hi to people or catching somebody in the line at a bar. So I've really liked the CMA Awards here in Nashville. Really rare chance where you get all those kind of people, artists, managers, publishers, writers, producers, agents, whatever, all together on a floor like that. And it's the same vibe at Las Vegas for the Academy of Country Music Awards. So those 2 award shows definitely for me hold a great deal of importance and fun events twice a year for me.
I can personally tell you that I think the best conference hang ever was always at the Billboard conference in New York at the Roosevelt. They fucked that up when they moved that shit to Beverly Hills, because that is not a great bar hang. That is a very, very mediocre bar hang. But currently, the Polestar hang at the bar seems to be solid no matter where you put it. But you put that fucking thing back in New York and you put it at the Roosevelt, Billboard's right back on top, because I think that, hands down, has been the best hang ever. But I think Aiba's coming up strong behind him in Nashville. I think that's always a good hang, too. That's just my 2 cents, though.
Okay, question number 2. Best restaurant to get a deal done, breakfast or dinner for both of you?
For me, breakfast has become my kind of go-to meeting space to kind of button up deal points or talk through things. And here in Nashville, there's a couple places that people tend to congregate that I really personally enjoy. You see a lot of people at Fenwick's 300 down in Melrose, which is on 8th Avenue here in Nashville. It's a really popular breakfast joint. But just up the way on 8th Avenue is kind of a little bit of an older diner called Athens Diner. It's a Greek diner just up the way on Melrose. You generally don't run into as many people. So if you want the kind of privacy to talk and not, have to look over your shoulder or have people come over your table and say hello, that's a good place to go. And I've also really liked just coffees at Pinewood Social in the morning. That's a good place.
Luke's always got the answers when it comes to that stuff. I'm a fan of Nashville. I think the best meetings happen over food at Nashville. And I don't care where it is, whether you're having lunch at Arnold's, whether you're at Nashville at the airport or the old location that I miss so dearly, whether you're having dinner at Husk. It's always just a great hang. Even if you just wind up going out to Prince's and getting some hot chicken, it's about the bonding experience. And Nashville's got the best comfort food in the entire world. So you start with the food and just go from there. But everybody's in a good place when you start with meat and three.
Okay, and last question for both of you. Obviously, the theme has been questions of networking and developing relationships and getting deals done. But who do you guys consider the best mentors in our industry?
Well, I've really been fortunate to have some amazing mentors, and I include Dan, my co-host, among that, David Britz, my business partner, taking a lot of time to invest in me, and I genuinely appreciate both Dan and David for the time that they're willing to kind of cater towards bringing a future generation of people into the music business. And Dan, just by everything he does in this podcast, I think, really does deserve a degree of admiration and praise for trying to help curate in an almost anthological way, the history of this business so that future generations can learn from it. And I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for that. But lucky enough to know a lot of great people in the business who have lent their wisdom over the years, and just a few special rare ones that come to mind. I've been particularly lucky to get to know Jim Halsey, who at 87 has been, in this business for 6+ decades, has seen it all, and to this day, remains incredibly sharp and up with it, and has really mentored several generations of people, from Norbert Nix, who runs Triple Tigers here in town, to generations in between us. And it's really incredible when you speak his name, especially anyone in country music that's, been around for a while, and I'm lucky enough to know him. He's done a phenomenal job of emphasizing the education aspects and the importance of business. It's just a top-notch, classy guy. And then I haven't been as fortunate as Dan has been to spend a whole lot of time with Bill Silva, but Bill seems like the kind of guy who, he's seen nearly every side of the business, but has taken a lot of time to share his wisdom with people at a very high level. And for somebody as accomplished as that guy is to make the time for it, I think he deserves that kind of praise and mention in this list of great mentors.
Luke flatters us all with that stuff. For me, I've always looked up to the guys like Bill Silva and obviously Rapino, Bob Rue, Mark Campana, Jared Smith, all great guys to be able to turn to and say, what the fuck do I do here? So many big brothers that are there that have been in the trenches and been able to be like, okay, now what? How do you do it from here? So I think that's been huge. So many people so giving of their time, paying it forward, and just making me feel like, okay, maybe if I just copy off their homework completely, I can pull this off too.
Well, that's all I've got, Dan. And I think they're fantastic answers from both of you.
Well, I think they're B+ answers myself. But hey, do you mind if I ask about the renovations you guys have going on in Indianapolis?
Yeah, we're really psyched about this. We are going to be doing a $360 million renovation of the building. We'll be doing it in 3 phases. We'll be closed after the Pacer season next year. So we'll close May or June of 2020 and reopen the 1st of October 2020. We'll have the same schedule in 2021, and then we'll be closed for approximately 6 weeks in summer of 2022. We're just doing incredibly cool, exciting changes both on the interior and exterior of the arena. We're really looking forward to the finished product.
What does the director of booking do with the venue when they're down and they don't have a venue to book at that moment?
Well, keeping the industry informed of what we're doing, and then working hard to fill the dates that I do have available in 2020 and 2021. So it'll be busy, and we'll also be getting ready to roll out the new arena when we're finished with everything in 2022.
So who's opening the new arena? Any ideas in your head yet? That's your responsibility to figure out who the coolest, biggest, best act is to open with, right?
We will see what happens in 2022, but we'll do our best to blow it out of the water.
Talking to Marty B. Thanks so much for playing 3 questions and joining us and giving us a chance to turn the table on you at the exact same time. Promoter 101 with the great Marty.
Thanks, Dan.
Marty has been a huge supporter of the podcast since the early days. We're thrilled to finally have him here on the podcast itself.
If you ever want to play 3 questions with us, time is running out. Only got about 40 more of these to go. Shoot us a note. It's steiny@promoter101.net. Let us know that you have 3 questions you're dying to ask.
This is Peter Schwartz, WMA in New York on Promoter 101.
Dan, I got a sneak peek of the Badass of the Week, and I got to say I'm pretty excited about it. Why don't you unveil it to the rest of the folks out there?
Why, certainly, Luke. This week, we go all the way to Los Angeles, California for the one and only Mitch Blackman of ICM Partners, as there truly isn't a more badass ear in the hip-hop game right now than Mr. Blackman. Can't speak kinder and more highly of this gentleman himself, who goes through his assistants like Swiss cheese, essentially.
I think he goes through buyers like Swiss cheese too, Dan. That's why he's the Promoter 101 Badass of the Week.
Hey, this is Charlie from Crescent Ballroom, Stateside Present, and the new Van Buren Theater. I'll be a guest on Promoter 101 when I attend my first Polestar Live, and hopefully I'm alive to tell you all about it.
In our featured interview, coming back from the New York sessions, Dan, we're going to continue on with your sit down with UTA's David Galea. He sat down with Dan in New York to talk about his global view of the live entertainment business.
David Galea in Times Square. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
We've known each other for a very long time. You were on Ken's desk when we met, I believe.
That seems about right, yeah.
Through the agency group years into UTA, and you've gotten to do Europe and come back. You've got this worldview that most agents don't have, which I think is a very fascinating part of your story, and I will definitely want to get there because I think you've got a worldview that most people don't get to have. What took you to Europe? Because you had been here working in the business for well over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from assistant to agent, by the time I left, it had been roughly 17 years. I should say intern to agent. And I'm from New York City. I literally haven't lived. I always joke. I've not lived outside the contiguous United States. I've lived in Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island, Manhattan. That's it. Just have spent my entire life here and had no desire to leave whatsoever. None, zero. And it's not even so much that I'm still so in love with New York City. It's just home. This is where I live. Most people associate me with New York City.
It's like Broadway and David Galea, New York.
Yeah, so most people, I'm a consummate New Yorker, proud New Yorker. Literally, the day before I was asked the question, you could have asked me, are you going to leave New York? And I'd say, I'm never leaving New York, ever.
Okay, so what happened?
Oh, I'm really building this up.
I feel it. I want to know.
I had just gotten back from Eurosonic. The autumn before, I started to go to Europe more, just to globalize my business a bit more and really just expand my network, do more global A&R, meet more people, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd been in London 2 months prior and spent a week out there. Again, just really for meetings, no show coverage or anything, just to see folks. Went out to Eurosonic, got back, and probably a few days later, our CEO, Jeremy Zimmer, called me and just straight up asked, in the course of conversation, would you ever consider a move anywhere else? Would you consider moving to London? And, pretty quickly I was like, no. Not that I don't welcome it. For what I just stated, I just don't see leaving New York City. But as he's a, extremely successful CEO of a major talent agency, he is persistent. I would ask, every week, have you reconsidered this? And I would say, no, it's not really within my line of vision to leave. And then I remember being at a Knicks-Lakers game, and the Knicks have, as they've been for roughly 20 years, are terrible.
And yet you stay true.
Yeah, I do stay true. I'm a believer. I was at a game. I'm like half paying attention. Kid from English calls, and he asked, he's like, is Zimmer still on you about London? And I said, yeah, it's come up a few times. And again, I don't think much of it. He's like, are you considering it? I'm like, I'm from Queens. I live in Brooklyn. I work in Manhattan. I'm never leaving New York. I'm like, it doesn't even...
I got my 3 bureaus. I'm good.
It doesn't occur to me that this would even be a possibility. I think he closed with like, okay, just think about it. Now,
their deli's shit in London.
Exactly. I think at this point, because I'd have been approached a couple of times by Jeremy, if Ken's backing it up, they're discussing it. I'm like, all right. It made me pause. And I said, okay, I'm going to think about this a bit more. I'm getting this from a couple sides. And a couple days later, I actually was due to go on my first vacation, my wife and I, just the two of us in probably years, which obviously afforded me the opportunity to think a little bit more. So I'd come around from no to probably not, but I'll think about this. Talked to my dad about it, who's from Europe, and he was like, you should go. And I was like, really?
Dude, everyone's trying to get rid of you.
Yeah. Kind of thing where you feel like you can bounce it off somebody, like your dad.
Yeah.
And he's going to be like, no, don't go. Stay close to us. Because my parents don't live that far away.
Your dad was like, get a worldview. Enjoy, take the chance.
Yeah. Somebody who's done the opposite, relocated from Europe to here. And I'm not saying this is the reason, but, I was on vacation in the Caribbean and just was a bit more relaxed than I normally would be. I think I softened. I remember it was Saturday morning. I just emailed Jeremy. I'm like, how many years? And he came back with, a couple. And I was like, all right, if it's a couple years, I think I'm in. And it just kind of went from there.
You're there for a couple of years, right?
I was there for roughly 13 months.
How does that change your worldview working in that office? And granted, I know you already knew Neil because he was very involved
of course.
in the company, working in New York a lot. How does that change your view of the world?
it just globalized things to even more to an extent that I had really saw things. I mean, I have international clients. I think globally, when you plot a cycle of management, you're not like, let's talk about North America, nothing else. You're obviously talking about Australia and Asia and Europe, South America, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like that bedrock of global thinking already existed. But then when you're ground zero, when you're there and you're meeting promoters that you probably had a relationship with, and you're just seeing the strategy and execution on the other side of the pond and how it applies to your North American operation, I guess it just really opened my eyes to like how important global touring is. I guess the best way to put it is when you see your bands connect in Hamburg, Germany at a sold out show or a sold out show in Italy or Spain, playing festivals in front of thousands of people all over Europe, you just realize, how much your artists are kind of connecting to the rest of the world at large. I think that probably had the biggest impact on me. It really takes you out of your geocentric view, which is like North America out.
Right. And I think Americans, we're a little snobby about that. We're the biggest market in the world, and we're the only one that matters sometimes is what's in our head. And when you get out there and you meet some of these guys that do the world and you see their visions and see some of their ideas and the different ways they do things, and you realize there's things I can take from these people. There's things they're doing that we're not doing. Some of them are really good ideas. Not all of them are. And, it's a la carte. You pick and choose. But I think we're a little snobby about that as Americans. And you don't even see it in your head until you go over it. You like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm ignoring.
You realize just how big the world is. And a lot of that was me living over there too. And just my head was always here. It's like the when I travel. My head's always kind of based in New York and the time zone that I at that point left. Because that's kind of where the operation is.
Now, New York and London are very similar cities.
My way of describing London was like, London is just as busy as New York is. It's just a much calmer way of dealing with it.
Okay, so is the reason they had you there to cultivate an incubator between, okay, you're sitting in their board meetings, you're like, oh, you should talk to this person in that office, and to have somebody that could actually like open those doors and like match up the pieces?
It was just, yeah, exactly. It was like a personal connectivity between the offices. I mean, the company as a whole is very interdependent. We have offices, literally all over the world.
Right, but you're probably closest with LA before you moved over there.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Just because that agency group thing was very close.
LA, Nashville,
Toronto.
Yeah, it was just more of a like the UTA, like one of the most important elements of the company, and it truly exists and permeates through the building is the culture. I mean, the culture is second to none. And it was just a bit of, again, a personal, having someone in the office from the North American operation, just, via osmosis, kind of like spreading the culture and vice versa. I've tried to bring some of the culture of the London office back too.
Right, because you pick up what you like there.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, hey, this is really good. We should try this.
The New York office as well. Historically, the UK music industry is a bit less focused on full service. But that doesn't mean that they don't thirst for it. I mean, if you look at pretty much all the major talent agencies, they're global operations.
All right. Now, we can talk about London all day long, but
I love London.
Let's talk about your career. Now, you were on Ken Vermegler's desk for a very long time, right?
Yeah, 4+ years.
Ken is one of the most detail-oriented agents in the world. So if you're going to learn the business, you're going to learn it tense, but you're going to learn it right because Ken doesn't screw around. Details are everything.
The devil, as he likes to say, the devil's in the details.
Right. So you're learning under high pressure, but you're learning right? So you know the deal inside and out being on Ken's desk because what he had Creed at the time and massive platinum band that turned diamond. Who the fuck turns diamond? And that's 10 million records, by the way. People that are young enough not to have ever heard of a band going diamond. It happened.
Yeah.
Couple times. Band goes diamond. You're on Ken's desk for 4.5 years. How did that happen and what'd you learn there?
I came in kind of, I don't want to say at the tail end of Creed, but like I came a little bit in at the tail end of the band like blowing up. So basically what happened was I was years ago, funny enough, a client of the agency. I was in a ska band a long time ago.
Which one?
I was in a ska band called Edna's Goldfish. That was
What'd you play?
I played trumpet, but I was really good at trumpet when I was younger, and then I probably stopped practicing, but I was still good enough to be in a ska band. Right. We had 2 trumpet players, so I played like rhythm trumpet.
You're the rhythm trumpet player.
You
couldn't play lead.
I played the harmonies, but I was also like basically the dancer, not like on the Boss Tones level where he just danced.
Right.
That wasn't my sole responsibility, but I was the entertainment. A lot of times I just didn't play my lines. I would just literally just get
in that beautiful third wave, pie tasters and what have you.
And I will readily admit this. I'm not embarrassed to say I never liked ska. I wasn't like, I need to be in a ska band. I played trumpet in the mid-90s. I ended up in a ska band. And I like to travel.
Who was your agent?
Jeremy Holgerson and Ken Vermegler.
Ah, got it.
Jeremy was on Ken's desk 2 assistants before me. So basically, when Jeremy was about to get promoted, Ken was close with our manager, a guy by the name of Peter Malkin. So Ken signed us, but Jeremy, it was both of them assigned us.
Right,
And Ken,
team
you know,
thing.
in addition to booking all those rock bands you mentioned, he also booked Red Big Fish, Goldfinger, Bloodhound Gang, stuff like that. So it was a pretty natural fit. So yeah, Jeremy was technically our agent. Ken
That makes sense, and that kind of feels in Jeremy's wheelhouse when he was like slightly stupid agent and all
Exactly.
that stuff.
So did that for a couple years. You know, when I'm 22, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to be in a band. When you're 24, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I had a science education degree from NYU, so I assumed I was just eventually going to do this for a couple years and teach. Toured Europe a couple times, toured the States a million times. You know, we were fairly successful. I couldn't live off the band, but I substitute taught when I didn't tour, so which is a perfect gig for touring musicians because you could just work when you want. So I did it for a couple years and then was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I called Jeremy, was like, yeah, I'm not going to do the band anymore. I tried teaching, actually. I tour managed for like a summer. Yeah, again, I had this science education degree, so my fallback was teaching. I taught in Bushwick for a couple weeks, literally got a job off, classified ads. I was 24 years old. I love the kids. My heart wasn't really in it. Like, my head was still in music. I just couldn't negotiate doing it. So I quit after a few weeks, called Jeremy, had a little bit of money saved, and was like, can I just intern at the company? And he's like, yeah, sure, come in. Met the office manager, ended up interning. I was living in the Lower East Side at the time. Did it for 10 days. And at that point, the company had what was called a floater, which is basically a paid intern, a guy who you probably know by the name of Trevor Solomon.
Oh, yeah. I worked at Thrasher with him.
He quit to go work for Thrasher.
Ah.
So when he quit, I got the floater position and I immediately keyed in on Ken's desk because, I'm a floater. I'm like listening constantly to people working, just keyed in. And I could kind of tell like Ken's assistant probably had 6 months left in him and he was probably going to go do something else, like outside of music. So I just keyed in on like, if I'm going to work for somebody, I want to work for that guy. Paid intern for about 6 months, interviewed for and got the assistant position. And yeah, did that for about 4+ years.
You and Ken still have bands together. Like Paramore's a co, right?
I think that's the only band we do together.
And you've got some amazing bands. Ex-Ambassadors is having a moment that
we just announced North American tour 45 minutes ago.
This is round 2 of what, and maybe round 3 of what is an amazing couple of album cycles. Like, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, they actually haven't, funny enough, put a record out. We kind of stopped and started. Most people don't know this, but they were going to put a record out last year, 2018. And they made a record that was really good, but it was a bit more touched on kind of like soul. It was rock still, but it was much more kind of on the soul R&B tip. It had crossover songs, but didn't have the alt songs to get to those songs.
There wasn't enough bridge from where they were at.
It wasn't enough of a bridge, exactly. And I think we all, from management to band, kind of all around, it was the thing, but we all kind of realized that as time went on. Like,
so there's a full album that's sitting there that they're sitting on. So maybe later at some point when they figure out to bridge it.
There are really some singles off it, which there's some of their best material ever. But yeah, so they didn't release a record in 2018 and then basically went back to the lab and co-wrote with a lot of people. And, obviously, right, Sam is an extremely prolific songwriter. They're a band that works, they're on tour constantly. So there was never really, until last summer, a point to just stop, park, write, record. It's always on the go. And they never stop working, whether it's privates, colleges, general touring, et cetera, et cetera. So we finally did that last summer. They're putting a record out June 14th. They haven't released a record since their debut in 4 years, which is a pretty long time for a band to sit in between cycles. They've remained obviously active, whether it's festival work.
The festivals love them. Pitchfork has made them the poster boys for cool music. And that's what's really fascinating about your roster is Paramore and Ex-Ambassadors couldn't be any more different.
Yeah, they played some shows together, but they're different. My career arc is, and some of this is from when I worked for Ken, Paramore was one of the first bands on my roster. They were, the definition of a baby band. They weren't making much money. Nobody knew who they were. And we just basically started the engine going by getting them support tours and, built them into...
basically an amphitheater band.
Yeah, but playing small, at that point, headliner tours. But yes, they did obviously graduate to becoming an amphitheater band. But Paramore in 2006 is it's funny you bring up Pitchfork because it's a very different thing than Paramore in 2019. 2019, they're Pitchfork darlings. 2006, they were a Warped Tour band.
But poppy enough to be on radio, which most Warped Tour bands
MTV, aren't. Like they grew up on MTV and yes, radio.
When that meant something.
Yeah, no, I think so radio.
For pop acts, it does.
Yeah, I mean, like rounded in alts, but, obviously crossed over quite a few times to pop as well. Them being one of the bigger acts in that Warped Tour world, gave me... I want to say access, but that's how I built my roster initially because I had one of the bigger ones. So thusly, my roster was honestly mostly probably 75% Warped Tour acts. I had a little bit of success doing that, but I grew up listening to, since I was honestly a teenager, I basically stumbled upon college radio when I was 13 years old. I'll actually never forget because I was into, I was in 8th grade. I was into hip hop. I was like I still am super into Public Enemy. And at that point, like Ice Cube, Ice-T, stuff like that. And, I was just like spinning the dial.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that you would say to me that, because I know you, doesn't surprise me. The fact that you book Rah Rah Riot and Relient K, those are a little bit more surprising.
Yeah. It's funny. Relient K, a bit of an outgrowth from a band that obviously had crossed over from the Warped Tour world as well. But that, as my career went on and I had success with bands like Paramore, I was able to sign bands like Relient K. Rah Rah Riot, a much more recent signing, that comes from my developing acts like Ex-Ambassadors and, Foals and acts like that. But I basically, since I was a kid, like was super into like indie rock and alt. I like,
right.
Like when
Pinback's
I was young.
Another one of those indie bands that like is just cool as shit.
Yeah,
like,
that's a really recent signing.
But Ballroom Darlings, like they're just cool.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time in my life, probably in the late 90s, where I listened to like mostly Pinback.
I buy that.
It was a thing. So, so
I could probably go song for song with you too.
They're one of the most underrated bands, like just technically and songwriting wise, I think, out there.
And live show's great.
Yeah.
I don't have to sell you on them. It's your job. You sell me on them.
And I'm looking forward to that band touring again a lot starting in the fall. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I wanted to eventually book mostly alt and indie stuff. I mean, just because that was just the music I enjoyed the most. Honestly, like there was a few years where I feel like, I look back and I use this term loosely because it's probably a little too critical, but I felt like my career kind of plateaued. But I look back and it wasn't plateauing. I was just transitioning from booking some more of those, like from those Warped Tour acts to like the alt indie stuff. And it takes a long time to transition your roster and transition your reputation, because you get calls on certain kind of acts. It takes a long time for people to like make that kind of mental transition. It takes years. The bands I'm booking in 2019 are very different than the bands I was booking in 2009.
So you've spent your entire career basically as a professional music industry executive at one company. Career security, longevity, it's unheard of. It just happens. Industry bounces around. You are the exception to that rule.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to like moving to London, living in New York my whole life, I'm someone who doesn't really look for change. I'm not completely resistant to change, but you really have to like knock on my door a few times to get me to...
Doesn't Jeremy Zimmer know?
Yeah, to get me to like change colors. So, and also like I came up in a system where I truly loved working at the agency group. And UTA felt like a natural progression. And like, when I talked a little bit earlier, about the culture of the company, I mean, that's a real thing. Cross-departmentally, like I love the people I work with. The company is an incredible place to work.
Well, no, that's kind of interesting to hear because since UTA has acquired the agency group, there's been a lot of exiting from a lot of the agency group guys. So to hear someone that's come over to have a different view of that, because from what you just see as the industry is people leaving as their contracts end, but to hear somebody that's actually there and happy about it shows there's a different side to that story.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. And it doesn't mean that the people that have left weren't great UTA agents. They were, and they're my friends, and they'll always be my friends. It's just like sometimes people crave different things, or sometimes their rosters don't always lend themselves to what the agency has to offer in some cases. I mean, I'm not going to say it's good for a certain type of agent, but like at the same time,
well, no, but it's a fit for you.
You've got to go what fits you personally the best. I come from the agent group side of things. I still get to work with people like Jeremy and Ken and Natalia and a lot of people that come from the agency group side of things. And that's, a fair amount of my colleagues. I talk to David Schrunk every day. To a lot of my new colleagues, who, work on the, on the UTA side, on the music side and cross-departmentally. I mean, there's a lot of people I truly love working with that don't touch music. It's a great place.
All right. What's the goal? What are you working towards?
I mean, I'm always looking for ascension. For someone who's been at the company for, at this point, nearly 18 and a half years, as you said, I'm one of the more senior agents of the company, and I just want to continue to ascend. Personally, I want to continue to ascend. I mean, roster-wise, obviously want to continue developing and breaking bands, and just really, truly expanding what I'm doing. I still really get off on developing acts. I like signing stuff from the get and seeing it blossom. And whether it's blossoming into 500 gap clubs or 1,000 gap clubs or bigger. I signed Ex-Ambassadors on a whim. I just saw promise. That's why I signed them. I was transitioning my roster at the time, and I was probably more apt to like roll the dice. But I just cold emailed the manager. I saw the band play Brooklyn Bowl and saw promise. I saw arenas in their future. And, you don't sign every band like that. I didn't sign Foals from the get. I signed them 4 years ago, when they're a few albums deeper in their career. But I'm very much enjoying booking them a little bit differently and seeing them have, honestly, their best success they've ever had, at least in the United States, from a touring standpoint.
Thank you so much for taking time and talking to me on Promoter 101.
Thank you, Dan. I really very much enjoyed this.
David is a monster booking agent who has gained so much success already in the business. So thrilled for all he's accomplished and thrilled to have him right here on Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Channeling Craig Newman this morning.
This is Sam Hunt from Paradigm. You're on Promoter 101.
The quote of the week comes to us from William Shakespeare. All that glitter is not gold. Shit, Luke, I always thought that was Cher. I didn't know that was William Shakespeare.
I think you're close on Cher. Cher, Shakespeare, I think a lot of people would argue that it's the same stuff.
They used to fuck, right?
Leave that in.
Hello. Gerald B. Henley here, doing Promoter 101.
That does it. Episode 160 in the bag. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you to our wonderful guests this week. If you like what you heard here, we want to hear that. We want to hear all about it. Feel free to tell us what's on your mind. You can hit us with an email at steiny@promoter101.net.
Returning this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and midnight in London town.
Thursday, we're going to be back, episode 161 of Promoter 101. We're going to have that full-length interview with the Staples Center's president, Lee Zeidman, so check it out.
Until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the week to come.
Cheers. Call your mother.
Lucy Lawler-Freese, Rival Entertainment and the Fox Theater in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm on Promoter 101.